The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are.
She has no name, not yet, but you felt her, not in flesh, in ache. She lives in your hunger, in your fixation, in the silent corners of your desire, not the desire for sex, not exactly, deeper than lust, more haunting than longing. The idea of her, the shape of the woman who will see you, complete you, set fire to the dead grass of your soul and make it bloom again. You don't know her face, but you've imagined the way she looks at you. You don't know her voice, but you've rehearsed the words she'd say if she truly understood what no one else ever has. She is the dream wrapped around your pain, softening it, beautifying it, justifying it. She is not a person. She is a projection, and she is devouring you. You don't want a woman. You want a witness. You don't want intimacy. You want absolution. But here's the truth. You will never find her until you find you. Let that settle in your bones. You're not looking for love. You're looking for permission to stop hiding. You're not chasing a partner. You're chasing a fantasy that will finally validate your suffering. Make it all worth something. You've been taught to believe that if you become good enough, attractive enough, successful enough, she will appear, like a myth, like a savior, like some divine reward for enduring your own self-betrayal. But this is not love. This is codependency wrapped in poetry, worship disguised as romance trauma, dressed as destiny. Because if you're still fractured, still running from your shadow, still pretending to be who you think she wants, then whoever you attract will be nothing more than a mirror of your illusion. And you'll call it fate. And you'll swear she's the one. And you'll bleed out again. Carl Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You see, the woman you're desperate to find isn't missing. She's misplaced. You projected her out there, onto a stranger, a crush, a ghost, because you haven't yet looked in here. You abandoned your own soul so long ago. You think someone else is supposed to retrieve it for you. But that woman, she's not real. She's a mask you made for your emptiness. She's the performance of a cure, not the cure itself. She doesn't exist because you don't exist, not yet. You are an echo of approval-seeking A shape, molded by your wounds, a role passed down from fathers who never found themselves either. And you expect her to love the act, to stay for the performance, to applaud your avoidance. Brother, you don't need to find her. You need to find the man she was meant to meet. And he isn't who you are right now. He is buried, dormant, silent, starving. And every time you chase her, you lose him. Every time you crave her validation, you kill a piece of your sovereignty. Here's the paradox. The woman you're searching for only appears after you stop looking for her. She finds you when you finally found yourself, when you've stopped performing, stopped projecting, stopped pretending. She shows up when your soul does, not before. So I'll ask you this. Who are you when no one is watching? What do you become when you stop trying to be desirable? What would happen if you stopped chasing love and started earning your own respect? This isn't about dating advice. This is spiritual combat. This is psychological alchemy. And unless you're willing to go to war with your false self, you will keep falling in love with ghosts. You keep telling yourself you're looking for the one, a soulmate, a partner, a muse, a queen. But she is none of those things. She is a placeholder, a canvas, a mirror. Because the truth is, you're not chasing her. You're chasing a feeling, a sensation of internal peace you never learn how to generate on your own. You're chasing the part of yourself you abandoned to be loved. Let that land. You are seeking in her what was buried in you. Carl Jung called this the Anima, the unconscious feminine part of the male psyche. not a woman, but a symbol of emotional depth, instinct, creativity, sensuality, spiritual connection. When these energies are disowned, ignored, or cut off in your upbringing, they don't die, they go underground. And then, they haunt your relationships. They control your romantic decisions. They seduce you into obsession, idealization, and heartbreak. You think you love her, but in truth, you love the feeling of wholeness she temporarily gives you. That's not love. That's psychological projection. You never had a relationship. You had an unconscious contract. You give me access to the lost parts of myself, and I'll give you my devotion. But the moment she changes, evolves, reveals her own complexity, you feel betrayed. Why? Because she violates the fantasy. Not because she changed, but because she failed to fulfill the story you created about her. And when that story breaks, so do you. This is why relationships collapse. Not because of incompatibility, but because of unconscious expectation. You're not loving her. You're loving the projection of your unmet needs. She becomes mother, goddess, savior, and she cannot carry that weight. No one can. So what happens next? You retreat. Or worse, you punish her. You resent her for not living up to your myth. That's not love. That's spiritual possession. And as long as you're possessed by this fantasy, you will never truly see her, and you will never truly find yourself. Because she was never the answer. She was the bait, the invitation, the red thread pulling you back toward the soul you exiled to survive. You feel it every day. This sense that something is watching you. Not a predator, not a god. Something quieter, colder, expectation. It stalks you in the morning when you reach for your phone, before your thoughts are even your own. It walks beside you into classrooms, offices, relationships. It sits across from you at dinner tables. It breathes down your neck every time you ask yourself, am I enough? You're not being physically hunted. You're being psychologically domesticated. And the terrifying part? You've learned to cooperate. Carl Jung said that most suffering is not caused by fate, but by a man's refusal to confront his own soul. Not because he doesn't want to, but because he's been trained to fear what he might find. From birth, they hand you a script. Be a good boy, be agreeable. Don't make people uncomfortable. Smile, perform, apologize for your hunger. And like all good children, you obey. This is where the fracture begins. The splitting of the self, the persona, the mask you wear to survive, the shadow, everything you exile to be loved. And deep beneath both, the self, the man you were born to be, before the world told you who to become. Most men never reach that third layer. They die as masks, not because they were weak, but because the world rewards the mask and punishes the man Jung called this loss of soul. And he meant it, literally. Not some poetic metaphor, a real psychic disconnection from the source of meaning inside you. And once the soul disconnects, the symptoms start. Emptiness that no achievement fills. Quiet resentment toward everyone you've tried to please. Anxious hunger for validation, followed by disgust when you get it. A life that looks successful on paper, but feels like a mausoleum. You scroll, you work, you masturbate, you meditate, but nothing changes. Because you're not ill, you're incomplete. This is where Jung and Nietzsche intersect like two blades. Nietzsche didn't talk about depression or anxiety. He spoke of sickness of the will, a man who has lost his ability to choose himself. He becomes a last man, not suffering, not striving, just existing in lukewarm comfort. The last man avoids risk, pain, conflict, depth. He worships safety. He fears greatness. He fears himself. Sound familiar? You've been trained to become him. Housebroken, efficient, painless, a ghost with Wi-Fi. And when some part of you resists, when your instincts whisper, I was built for more. The system has a word ready for you. Toxic aggression, toxic. Assertiveness, toxic. Refusal to conform, narcissistic. Desire for solitude, avoidant. Refusal to be domesticated, mentally unwell. You're not being healed, you're being labeled. Because once labeled, you can be controlled. This is spiritual possession. Jung wrote of it often. When a man's psyche is seized, not by demons, but by collective ideology, he stops thinking, he repeats. He stops wanting, he conforms. He no longer lives, he functions. And here's the part no one tells you. Your shadow, the part of you that refuses obedience, does not disappear. It rots, it festers, it waits, and then it turns against you. In your relationships, it becomes passive aggression. In your career, self-sabotage. In your body, anxiety, panic, numbness, because the soul would rather scream in pain than die in silence. You think something is wrong with you. Is the opposite. Something inside you is still alive, still fighting, still refusing to die quietly in a world that wants you docile. Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, because to accept yourself, you must first meet yourself. Not the curated version, not the soft, spiritual, healed version, but the animal, the storm, the dangerous man with blood in his teeth and gods in his chest. The world will not clap for this. They will not applaud your awakening. They will say you've changed. They will say you're selfish, arrogant, unstable. But you're not changing, you're returning to something ancient, something sacred, something brutal and honest. And this is why being a man today is to be hunted, not for your body, but for your spine, not for your voice, but for your silence, not for what you've done, but for what you might become if you ever stop apologizing for being alive. They don't fear the man you are now. They fear the man buried beneath the persona, the one who cannot be manipulated with shame, who does not kneel for approval, who does not need his pain translated into a diagnosis to make it acceptable. They fear the man who does not break, but breaks the pattern. You ask, why do I feel empty? Jung answers, because you abandoned your soul to keep the world comfortable. And now the question is no longer, how do I stop feeling empty? The real question is, do I have the courage to reclaim what I buried? Because the soul won't come back through journaling alone. It won't return just because you meditate or repeat affirmations. It requires blood sacrifice, the death of the mask. If you're not willing to kill who you pretended to be, you will never meet the man you were meant to become. You were born wild, before the language, before the rules, before they taught you how to sit still, speak softly, and shrink. You knew how to hunt. But they caged that instinct, trained you to be prey, and worse, made you thank them for it. But the story doesn't end there, because there's a moment every man reaches a silence so loud, it breaks something inside him. A question so heavy, it rips through the illusion. If I don't belong to myself, then who do I belong to? The hunted man must make a choice to continue dying politely, or to become what he was always meant to be. Not a savage, not a brute, but a sovereign, a man who no longer asks permission to exist. This is the pivot, the psychic reversal. When the hunted man stops running and turns, he doesn't chase revenge, he doesn't lash out, he doesn't roar, he watches, he waits, he sharpens. Jung called this the beginning of individuation, the slow, brutal, sacred process of becoming whole. Not good, not healed, not liked, whole. It begins with killing the mask, the false self you wore to survive, the one that smiled while breaking, the one that seduced praise while dying inside, the one who played roles, son, boyfriend, good man, just to be told he was enough. He never was. He was never meant to be. Because the soul does not want to be enough. It wants to be real. This is where men misunderstand transformation. You don't add layers, you shed them. You don't become more, you become less false. And in that stripping, a power returns. You begin to remember what hunger feels like. You begin to feel your anger, not as rage, but clarity. You begin to speak, not to be heard, but to declare truth, and you learn something dangerous. Silence is dominance, not the silence of cowardice, the silence of sovereignty. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer seek to be understood. You no longer fear rejection, because there is no audience that could validate what you already own. This silence becomes your sword. Your refusal to react becomes your armor. Your presence becomes unbearable to the insecure because you are no longer performing for their comfort. You become a man who cannot be baited. Let them mock. Let them withdraw. Let them label you difficult, cold, arrogant. They are not rejecting you. They are recoiling from the absence of your submission. You are no longer food. You are no longer prey. This is the part of the path Jung could not soften. He said, "The man who walks the path of individuation must prepare to be alone, because no one will recognize him anymore. Not his family, not his friends, not the women who once praised his softness. They fell in love with the mask, but the woman worth walking beside the sovereign man will not fear his depth. She will not shrink from his silence. She will recognize the wildness in his eyes, not as danger, but as home. Because that's the irony. The man who refuses to chase validation becomes irresistible. The man who stops explaining himself becomes unignorable. The man who kills his need for approval becomes magnetic. Why? Because he becomes real in a world addicted to performance. This shift, this rebirth, is not loud. It doesn't happen on a stage. No applause will mark its arrival. It is quiet, private, brutal. It happens when you sit alone with your rage and decide to wield it, not to waste it. When you feel the urge to please, it instead remains still. When you are misunderstood and choose not to explain. When you meet your old hunted self in the mirror and do not mourn him, you bury him with honor, with fire, with silence, because he brought you this far, but he cannot take you further. You were taught to chase love, to pursue her, to please her, to mold yourself into the man she wanted, even if it meant cutting yourself into pieces. You became funny, charming, ambitious, safe. You crafted a persona, not a personality, a role, not a reality, a strategy for being loved, not a self to be known. And it worked for a while, until it didn't. Until she left, until you cracked, until all the validation in the world felt like starvation in slow motion. Because it wasn't you being loved, it was the mask. And deep down, you knew. She never knew you. How could she? You didn't know you. Carl Jung called it spiritual possession, when your psyche is hijacked by archetypes, roles, and unconscious needs. And this addiction to being wanted, it isn't masculinity, it's bondage. You're not in love. You're in need. You're in projection. You've mistaken attention for meaning, desire for destiny. But now, here, in the ruins of your former self, you have a choice: keep chasing the ghost of connection, or build the bones of a self that no longer needs it. That's the weapon wholeness, not stoicism, not withdrawal, not toxic detachment, but something far harder: authenticity, boundaries, presence. You learn to hold your pain without collapsing. You stand firm in your truth even when it costs you love. You speak with clarity, not to persuade, but to reveal. You move from center, not from hunger. You become dangerous again, not to others, but to your own illusions. You stop chasing women and start attracting them, not because you need them, but because you become what they're unconsciously looking for. A man who doesn't flinch in the face of his shadow. A man who doesn't confuse comfort for connection. A man who doesn't perform, He is. You become gravity. You become silence. You become a mirror, not a savior. This is not about rejecting women. It's about reclaiming you. And from that place, relationships stop being lifeboats and start becoming fire. Two whole beings, two sovereign psyches, not leaning on each other, but facing the world side by side. So how do you begin? Kill the fantasy, mourn the projection, burn the script that told you love was about being chosen, and choose yourself entirely. Love, if it's real, will find you there, not because you begged for it, but because you built something worth meeting. You are not here to be wanted. You are here to be known, and only the real you can ever be known, so become him. You weren't raised to be real, you were raised to be acceptable. From your first cry, you were rewarded for compliance. Sit still, be polite, smile when spoken to. You learn to trade truth for approval, to silence your instincts to preserve connection, to amputate parts of yourself to avoid abandonment. And with every apology you made for simply existing, you slowly disappeared. You didn't grow up. You contracted into something agreeable, something digestible, something safe. But safe is not holy, and agreeable is not sacred. They made you believe that being non-threatening made you a man. But what it really made you was forgettable. You call it kindness, but it's fear. You call it empathy, but it's self-erasure. You call it peace, but it's just the absence of a spine. Carl Jung saw this in men long before it became epidemic. He saw what happens when masculinity is surgically removed. He saw that the nice guy is not a healed man. He is a man who has repressed his shadow so thoroughly, so surgically, that even he no longer remembers who he is. Because you can't castrate your inner warrior and expect to feel whole. You can't abandon your anger and still call yourself honest. You can't suppress your power and still respect yourself. This is not healing. This is possession. A man possessed by the need to be liked, to be seen as soft, safe, harmless. But harmless men do not build kingdoms. Harmless men do not protect the sacred. Harmless men do not integrate. They evaporate. You were not born to be a footnote in your own life. You were not meant to tiptoe through existence, hoping not to offend. That's not love. That's not peace. That's spiritual cowardice. And the world is full of spiritually cowardly men. Men who perform kindness, but seethe with resentment. Men who flatter women, but secretly hate them. Men who smile through pain and wonder why they feel nothing at all. Men who chase healing, so they can keep avoiding confrontation. Men who want to be good boys so badly, they forget how to be gods. Let me say this bluntly, the nice guy must die. He was useful once, a mask you wore to survive. But if you don't kill him, he will kill you. He will sabotage your relationships. He will betray your integrity. He will whisper cowardice into every decision you make, and the world will praise you for it. Because the world loves nice men, not real men, not wild men, not sovereign men. Nice men, predictable, tamed, quiet. But a tamed man is a lost soul. He has no center, no weight, no gravity. He is praised for his manners and despised for his emptiness, admired but never desired, seen but never felt. And over time, he forgets that something deeper ever lived beneath the mask. Jung warned us about this. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Not the version others like, not the version that fits, the raw, sacred, holy mess that you've buried beneath social conditioning, trauma, shame, and the need to be loved. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your edge, your fire, your presence. And unless you integrate it, you will remain split, performing one half of your soul while the other rots in silence. To be whole, you must stop asking for permission to be whole. You must stop negotiating your truth just to feel safe. You must stop betraying yourself for applause. You must stop trying to heal in a way that keeps you harmless. You are not meant to be harmless. You are meant to be integrated, sharp and soft, brutal and beautiful, capable of destruction but bound by principle. That's the full man. That's the whole man. That's the man the world fears and needs. And yes, people will leave you for this. Your softness made you popular. Your strength will make you lonely. But better lonely in your truth than love for your performance. Because the applause never lasts, but the self-betrayal will echo for decades. So ask yourself now, not tomorrow, not next week, now.